Alright, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament, where we are playing Phlegra. It is turn 62. Probably just raiding. We are going after a vampire this turn. Hopefully no major battles, since we weren't planning on that. So yeah, here's our magic phase attack, where we're going after that vampire. Let's jump in and take a look. And hopefully, yeah, just one PD. So that's really good news, because we don't really have a front line, other than, you know, our air elementals. So we're going to get 2 air elementals. We'll see. Yeah, okay. This is probably a good result. So we'll see. It would be nice if we could soul slam. We may have soul slayed the barbarian. Yeah. So soul slay is getting, chewed up by the barbarians. It looks like the air elementals were the ones to trample the vampire lord. So it kind of looks like we could have just sent in the air elementals. Of course, we were hoping to actually soul slay that vampire, so we wouldn't have to see him again. But, you know, all things considered, this is a decent result. We do spend quite a few gems on that. So in that sense, it's not really like it's not cost effective enough if we were seeing a lot of vampire lords. If we ever end up fighting like, Micklin, and they're using a ton of vampires, like, we're probably going to need, something else. That said, we don't have to teleport out, right? If we just move answers out, then we're using significantly fewer gems. So something like that wouldn't be too bad, right? If we only spent those 4 gems on the air elementals, that's not a great exchange. Okay, another ping from Atlantis, it looks like. This is on top of the throne, right, where we moved our tyrants, and a few supporting troops and mages. That is a location that Atlantis could hit, but, we'll see if they like the look of that. And then Ulm is hitting. Yeah, we've seen this group before. Some Fiends of Darkness. They're in a cave, so that's cool. There is a squad here, though, waiting for them. Living Water, yeah, I think Fiends of Darkness are very killy, but, they're not so great in terms of the protection. What is this guy doing? Okay, so he's been casting luck. That's cool. That definitely will help the Fiends of Darkness, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Water elementals are super dangerous, and I think, I don't know if all of late age Atlantis' troops still have dark vision, but these guys are recruited from underwater, so they have partial dark vision, so they're actually going to do decent in these caves, and as you can see, they roll right over them. So a pretty good answer from Atlantis to this raiding group from Ulm. Though it does look like Ulm's, mage manages to retreat in like 5 Fiends of Darkness. That's not that expensive. So, I mean, obviously a loss for Ulm, but, not that big a deal. This would be more of a big deal if we lose this, but we do not run into any resistance. So we are able to take that province. Uh-oh. This is probably the most important battle of the turn, because it indicates that Micklin and Marignon are now fighting each other, which I was kind of expecting, but it does potentially mean that, in fact, probably does mean that we're not going to have any help against Utgard. Not actually sure what happened in that battle. I'm pretty sure someone must have retreated. Let's just double check that. I'm assuming it was Marignon that retreated. Ooh, nope, life for life. Yeah, high research blood is, pretty nasty for super combatants and thugs. And Marignon does lose a decent amount of kit on this, I guess let's call it a thug. This is a pretty nasty chassis, like fear, a lot of, some of these resist. One of the electricity is coming from the item, and the cold, that is. Actually, it looks like maybe, okay, got some fire resistance. Looks like a pretty good built-in weapon, which Marignon is taking advantage of. I think it's like a decent build for a thug. Also has blood vengeance, so let's take a look at the casualties and see if, that triggered and took out the caster. No, looks like he managed to survive. I wonder if that fellow has some magic resistance gear. I don't think magic resistance matters for life cast. Nope, no gear on this guy. So, magic resistance 18 is still pretty high, just for base. Don't actually know how expensive these fallen angels are, but I imagine they're probably not cheap to bring in. So this is a fairly painful loss for Marignon, especially considering, Micklin pretty much just spent like a couple of blood slaves. So that's pretty close to free. But, again, the bigger news is that it's going to be unlikely, I think, that Marignon is going to want to commit to fighting Utgard, which means once Utgard is finished with Atlantis, I mean, right, this seems like probably a great time for them to come in. Another ping from Atlantis, pinging out Utgard's doom stack here, which, we'll probably see in the future. We definitely will want Serpent's Blessing, important not to forget that one. And then this is probably the storm of that fortification. I don't think there's a whole lot in here. Yeah, there's almost nothing in here. So like I said, I was kind of expecting Atlantis to just not resist at all, but it looks like they're opting to, well, we'll see how their armies move, but it was kind of looking like they were going to try to resist in their heartland, but they weren't going to bother resisting right on the border here. So Utgard takes another throne. If I'm recalling correctly, I think they need 3 more. So 2 of those they can easily get from us. They could theoretically get a 3rd one from us, but the 3rd one's all the way on the other side of our territory, right on the border with Mictlan. So, if they were going for a throne victory that way, probably trigger Mictlan to come in and try to grab that throne. And I think the other throne that's within easy reach, just in terms of movement, for Utgard is under Marignon's control. So, maybe we're not as bad off. We'll probably still get attacked. Let me rephrase. Maybe the game isn't as bad off in terms of like everyone else worrying about Utgard winning, because I'm sure Marignon will, leave that throne defended, and Utgard probably won't be able to close out the game. But that will not help us survive. So we'll see. Maybe should have combined with Atlantis to fight Utgard. On the other hand, I'm kind of okay getting knocked out of this game. So we have some unexpected events, some unrest, lose some gold, barbarian scouts, large scale attack. That sounds about right. Warring tribes, so we lose just a little bit of population, get some unrest. All this is pretty standard stuff. Can't really complain. Misfortune 3, etc., etc. Looks like Atlantis chose to patrol in a location, which is interesting. This is like one of their massive stacks. So we lose... Oh no, this is on top of their capital. So that makes a little more sense. We lose a scout. We also lose a scout just to, some of Utgard's massive PD investments. Been trying to find locations, that aren't as heavily invested, so we can at least have scouts, sprinkled through Utgard's territory, ready to be activated to move into more dangerous areas when the war does inevitably start. But of course, to get to some of these locations, we do have to move through places where it's possible our scouts get caught. And then we are starting to destroy, right, this is our one tyrant that's just hanging out underwater, is actually starting to destroy the gate. But we do have help coming for him. We do a little bit of patrolling, have some promotions, and I will catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. So much for taking Raga without any major defense. I was not expecting Atlantis to move down here. I'm not really sure what this move is about. It almost kind of feels like they were planning on penetrating right into our capital, especially, if we'd left this force here or if we'd moved up into this location. We would have been somewhat open to attack in that location. Luckily, we were taking the long route for other reasons. But we are now in excellent position to block this army. And I will say, like Atlantis, they have a lot of troops. As I took a look, assuming this is roughly their scales. And they definitely have pretty nice scales. But still, I guess they're coming down on territory, but they never had a ton of territory to begin with. And they have a lot of troops. Right, so there's this massive stack up here, there's this stack here, and now this stack is coming at us. We've been patrolled out of this throne fortification a number of times. We can see that something is sitting on top of this Almash fort, right? Like the assumption is they haven't completely abandoned the Almash front, although it's possible that they have, but there's a good chance that they have at least one other additional major army. It looks like they're going to try to defend against Utgard and Ulm and still attack us. So we are going to try to take this battle. In the good news department, this is a neutral temperature location, which is going to be pretty useful for a lot of our fire magic and also reduces the armor on a lot of these Ice Guard. In the bad news department, I unfortunately forgot to take some Yetis off of, they're moving into that province now, but they're being led in by some mages. They were supposed to join up with this army. Sadly, they did not. And that definitely could be a problem. I think, the main issue that we're going to have, I feel actually somewhat confident about this fight. It's going to be bloody, right? This isn't going to be an easy victory. But I do think we can win it. The main concern is that an HP rout is triggered. There's a good chance we're going to be up against Wailing Winds. The morale on these units is quite low. Probably haven't done enough in terms of leadership. We've definitely done a little bit, right? We've given this guy Helmet of Heroes. Although we didn't actually put any troops on him. Probably should have shifted the troops over to him. Mostly just has some Mouflon. Not even all of our Mouflon. The problem is I did not have an extra ice ring for him. or Frost Ring, right? So, I was concerned if I loaded all the troops up onto him, he would die from Murdering Winter. He does actually have like a little more HP than, just a regular human. But still, definitely within range where like there's a good chance Murdering Winter kills him. The plan definitely, is, right, we've got rings coming in. So we probably would have given him a ring and switched all the troops over to him. Probably should have just done it anyway, because it's unlikely we're going to get hit by a Murdering Winter in like our heat area, or the heat province that we're currently in, but I just forgot about it. But yeah, morale is definitely an issue. Morale 11 is pretty bad. It's not as bad as it could be, right? Like most of the rest of the troops, barring these guys. These guys really, you can see like morale 8, because this guy's not a taskmaster. One of the problems of, Phlegra, we've talked about it a little bit before, but, trying to use independent commanders to move around like or lead your national troops into battle is less than ideal. Luckily, your mages, like, I probably could have moved these guys over. Actually, we don't. That's the thing. Because we don't actually have very many mages here, because we're concerned about Murdering Winter, we actually don't really have any mages that we can put those guys on. Because normally, I think the oppressors have like 40 or 60 leadership, and they are taskmasters. So the oppressors, I think, are usually probably who you should have leading around your troops. But anyway, all this to say that like I am concerned about an HP route, and part of the advantage of having the Yetis, if we'd have more Yetis, they're a nice HP sink because they have quite a few hit points. They have much better morale. Yeah, morale 16 here, which still isn't fantastic, but it's a lot better than 8. So we're gonna have less of an HP sink here in the back, but it is what it is. I think it's still worth taking this battle in the heat. I also think there's actually a good chance that Atlantis retreats. Right, because if their hope was that, we would move into here, right, to try to take this location, and they could have just an open route to our capital, obviously this hasn't happened. It's like, where's this army going to go? Right, we've talked about how we can't really cross the river here. So even though we've moved down to this location, it's pretty unlikely that Atlantis is going to believe that we're heading for this fort. So, like, where are we going to be heading? We're going to be heading towards Raga. So, for them, it's like, well, why not retreat to a location with Cold 3 and take the battle there, link up with some reinforcements, bring the god out. Actually, I don't think you can patrol with a monolith, but, still, I think for them, fighting in Raga would probably be better than fighting here. So it's really just a question of, well, how confident are they feeling? If they're feeling confident, then we'll have a battle here. Otherwise, they're going to withdraw to Raga. We are trying to heat that up, so we're going to cast Breath of the Desert, and we are headed into summer, so hopefully we'll get neutral temperature here. We'll see. Otherwise, continuing to do some troop recruitment. We do, still need to put up a defense of this throne, although obviously we don't. Well, we may still have to worry. Like, we could use more troops in this location, particularly considering that, if we fight this battle, we're going to lose troops. So we're going to need replacements regardless of where Atlantis' other forces go. I'm assuming this is being committed against Utgard, but not necessarily. Otherwise, we're just shuffling our tyrants around. This is our territory now, so like we're still causing unrest in like sort of our land, but at least it's not like deeper in our land. Maybe catch some raiders here. Don't really have enough confidence to slam our guys. If all of this comes out to fight us, then we might lose some tyrants. But I think there's a decent chance that Atlantis will try to block us in this location. Also, this is kind of spooky, so much for all the forgiving fathers, coming out and coming to the capital. We do see that Ulm is on the move. I'm assuming they're moving to relieve this fortification. And then we are bringing our underwater siege strength into play, although, like I said, we may have to abandon this siege depending on how things go between Atlantis and Utgard, and depending on what Atlantis chooses to commit against us underwater. This army is just going to hang out for now, and we'll probably try to defend, if Atlantis does try to push at us, from our south. This is more or less what we have to defend with. Not really doing a lot of recruitment over here. We probably, if this starts moving out in force, we will do some recruitment, probably try to defend, deeper inside of our territory where the temperature is to our advantage. Doing a little bit more recruitment on this throne. Like I said, I am expecting Utgard to attack us once this war finishes. It does take us a little while to, build up units because our resource situation isn't fantastic. Luckily, these forts are a little bit better off, but this is really all we can afford right now. I don't think we're building, we're not building a fortification here. We do want a fortification here, but I feel like, while this situation with Atlantis is still so up in the air, it's probably a little too soon to be starting this fort. So instead, we're going to get our mobile fort, and that is, where the majority of our money is going. We are still getting some mage recruitment. Yeah, no mage recruitment there. Let's see. We are still getting a throne mage here. I think we're throwing it into, another really expensive throne mage. Not really sure. I mean, these guys definitely are better mages. But they're also more expensive, and we're definitely hitting the point in the game where expensive human mages, like, maybe be better to have more cheaper mages that we can sort of spread out in a raiding capacity. Because it's not like these guys are any more resistant to Murdering Winter, Flames from the Sky. But I mean, Astral 3, Air 2, like, these guys are really good mages versus like our stitched together horrible communions. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not thrilled with Phlegra's national mages. We're still recruiting, mostly recruiting independent mages, honestly. I think we do still have maybe somewhere, almost no national mages. Yeah. So we definitely will recruit some more national mages at some point when we get a little more money. Probably, when we're not on the turn when we're not recruiting a tyrant, we'll sneak some national mage recruitment in. They definitely still do have their uses. In terms of, what is going on, really, I mean, the only other big news, which we already know about, is that Mictlan and Marignon are fighting. It looks to me like Marignon kicked this off, which I think kind of makes sense. I think Marignon is a little bit bigger than Mictlan, maybe significantly bigger. I'm not totally sure. But yeah, definitely Marignon, I think, is the attacker because we can, see some deep raiding. I think this is the failed raid, and there's a couple of forts that have been locked down, though neither one cracked. So I'm guessing it was probably mostly like these angels and raiders that were making these attacks. We do see that there's some, at least one significant army that's ready to follow this up. I'm assuming that there are more. This is fairly scary. Also very resistant to Flames from the Sky, although I will say I believe Devils have weakness to cold. Terracotta Soldiers have no resistance to cold. They don't have a ton of hit points, so Murdering Winter would actually probably be pretty nasty for this army, and it's cold 2 here for some reason. I don't think Mictlan took cold scales. I mean, we do see some random places that are cold. But yeah, otherwise, as far as we're able to tell, it's, pretty hot in Mictlan's area. So I'm not sure what's up with these, random cold provinces. Like, possibly, Mictlan is looking at some of Marignon's armies and is actually, trying to turn down the temperature in some of their provinces. So we're going to try to keep an eye on this, somewhat as we're able. But like I said, this does probably spell our doom since, Marignon is more or less Utgard's only other neighbor, right? Barring Atlantis and ourselves. Obviously, Atlantis is already, fighting with Utgard, and once this finishes, right, we've declined the option of joining up with Atlantis to fight against Utgard. And now, unfortunately, the ally I was hoping to draw into the conflict probably won't be available. So, in the next 5 to 10 turns, we're probably going to be looking at trying to hold off Utgard ourselves. So we're also going to try to follow this war between Utgard and Atlantis closely, see if we can pick anything up, watch Utgard's tactics. And yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 62.